Alright, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Shalom, Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, Salam Kebajikan, and good afternoon to everyone. Before we start, I would like to extend my greetings for our honorable guests and speakers. First of all, Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi, Minister of Transportation for the Republic of Indonesia, represented here by Bapak Suharto, Expert for Technology and Energy of Ministry of Transportation. Welcome, Pak. Bapak William Sabandar, the President of ITS Indonesia. Bapak Andrew Aristianto, Chief of Strategy Officer of PT Bluebird Tbk. Mr. Prabaharan Gopalan, Chief Strategy Officer of PT Indika Energy. Bapak Mesra Eza, Deputy Executive Director of Millennium Challenge Account Indonesia 2, represented here by Bapak Rakanda Pranidina Jamal, EV Project Officer from MCA Indonesia 2 also. Welcome. Ibu Gatari Saraswati, Director of Systemic. Bapak Christoph Burda, President of Polish Chamber of E-Mobility Development Association. And last but not least, Ibu Tyas Widyastuti, Vice President of ITS Indonesia, which will be our moderator today. Welcome to the Jakarta Initiative for Sustainable and Intelligent Urban Mobility webinar held by ITS Indonesia. My name is Inara Pangastuti, and I will be the MC for our event today. So, ladies and gentlemen, the Jakarta Initiative for Sustainable and Intelligent Urban Mobility, or in short, G4SIUM, was introduced at the ITS Asia Pacific Forum 2024 held in Jakarta on May 28 to 30 this year. It is an initiative that collaborates with Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia, Indonesian Chamber of Commerce and Industry, or Kadin Indonesia, and also the 5P Global Movement. One of its key focus of this initiative is on the use of clean technology through developing the urban electric vehicles ecosystem, which will be the theme of our webinar today. All right, since everyone is now here, we would like to invite our panelists to take a group photos. So please kindly open your camera and our team will be taking the photos. All right, I see that everyone's here already. So maybe the committee, you're ready? If so, I will call upon all the panelists to take a photo and say cheese to the camera. All right. 3, 2, 1, cheers. Okay, I think we got it. Thank you very much. Now, on behalf of ITS Indonesia, we would also like to thank all our dedicated partners and members. First of all, and foremost, the Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia, the Chamber of Industry and Commerce of Kadin Indonesia, 5P Global Movement, PT Interport Mandiri Utama, your trusted partner for seamless logistics solutions, PT Nusantara Global Inovasi, BRT Nusantara System and Ticketing Management for Mass Transportation Integrated Solutions, and also PT Bluebird Tbk. From taxi, containers, and heavy equipment to logistics, Bluebird Group is a holding group that is ready to cater all your needs. All right, now without further ado, let's start the webinar by hearing the opening speech from the President of ITS Indonesia, Mr. William Sabandar. Pak William, we invite you to the highlight.
Good afternoon, everybody. Let me first welcome you to this webinar and thank you very much for attending this event. First of all, I would like to thank Minister of Transportation of Indonesia, Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi, who is providing us with his keynote speech. And also in this occasion, he is represented by expert staff, Mr. Suharto from Ministry of Transportations. Also, I want to acknowledge and thanking all the moderator and speakers from ITS Indonesia, our friend from Poland, from Pire, Poland, Mr. Christoph Burda, friends from other ITS, yeah, in Asia and Australia, and everybody, community of ITS, pentahelix approach, who are actually participating in this webinar on Jakarta Initiative on Sustainable and Intelligent Urban Mobility, call for actions for promoting partnership for advancing electric vehicle ecosystem. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished participants, this webinar was actually the follow-up of our initiative that was launched during the ITS Asia Pacific Forum held in Jakarta on the 28th to 30th of May this year, whereby there was a Jakarta Declaration was produced at the high-level roundtable meeting. And following that, there is a initiative, Jakarta Initiative on Sustainable and Urban Transport Mobility, which is an initiative declared together by ITS Indonesia with support of the ITS Asia Pacific region, ITS Australia, and the city of Gangnam, and also Indonesian Chambers of Commerce, Kadin, together with the global movement on 5P, Peace, Prosperity, People, Partnership, and Planet. And what was actually the Jakarta initiative? We have 5 components to achieve. Number 1 is creating an electric vehicle and clean transport ecosystem in Indonesia and other cities relevant. We are starting from Jakarta, but we also touch a new capital city of Nusantara and other cities. The second one, we want to promote integration of public transport services and ticketing systems. Also start with Jakarta, but expanding to other cities in Indonesia. The third one is actually promoting smart traffic management systems. The fourth one is promoting electronic and digital payment system for transport systems. And the last one is actually promoting a climate-sensitive transport policy, moving from policy to actions. In this case, we are trying to promote bringing all the COP cities, which this year is to be held in Baku, Azerbaijan in November. So, distinguished participants, today we are going to focus on promoting partnership in creating EV ecosystem. We cannot do this alone. We have to work together, and we have to also involve the ecosystem, start from the productions, the operations, the factory, the service, maintenance, the digital ecosystems, everything that is involved in this. The second one is actually in Indonesia, we should work collaboratively in the regions. And very good this afternoon, we have our friends from MCA, we have our friends specifically from Poland, who is actually bringing example from Polandia. So we hope that through this collaboration, we can create more and more ecosystems, EV ecosystems here. Appreciate today that we have support from some of our members from Grab, from Bluebird, also from the group of Indica Energy, and from Systemic, who is helping us in creating a sustainable financing platform. So I hope you will enjoy and participate on this call for actions, and we hope we can produce an effective action plan to really come into an integrated approach promoting environment which produce EV ecosystem that is viable, that is effective and efficient. So with that, I would like to invite our Minister of Transport, Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi, to provide his keynote remark, followed by the presence of Bapak Suharto, representing Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi. Thank you very much. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Pak William. Right, so as what Pak William has mentioned, next we would like to invite Minister for Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia, who is represented today by Bapak Suharto, expert for technology and energy from the Ministry of Transportation. to deliver his keynote remarks. Pak Suharto, the time is yours.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Honorable President of ITS Indonesia, Bapak William Sabandar, Distinguished Moderator and Speaker, Vice President of ITS Indonesia, Ibu Tyas Widyastuti, Chief Strategy Officer of Bluebird Group, Bapak Andre Aristianto, Chief Strategy Officer of Indica Energy, Bapak Prabaharan Gopalan, Deputy Executive Director of Millennium Challenge Account Indonesia, Bapak Mesra Eza, Director of Systemic, Ibu Batari Saraswati, President Police Chamber of E-Mobility Development Association, Mr. Christoph Burda, esteemed stakeholder of the Intelligent Transport System community and all participants, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to apologize to all attendees that I represent the Ministry of Transportation of the Republic of Indonesia, who at the same time is attending a meeting with the Indonesia Parliament. I'm Suharto, as the Ministry Expert Staff for the Technology and Energy. It is an honor to be present before you all this webinar, which bring together transportation stakeholders to explore innovative solutions, share knowledge, and discuss actionable steps to build sustainable and smart urban mobility. So, the electric vehicle ecosystem. In addition, this webinar aims to call for further action and collaboration in the electric vehicle ecosystem while achieving the Sustainable Development Goal and zero emission target in Indonesia. Ladies and gentlemen, currently, the world population is increasing significantly. It is estimated that 2/3 will be concentrated in urban area by 2050. This poses challenges for transportation sector, such as traffic congestion, traffic accident, especially gas emission. As we gather here, I would like to recall the Jakarta Initiative on Sustainable and Smart Urban Mobility, a key outcome of the 90 ITS Asia Pacific Forum 2024. This initiative developed in the collaboration with the Ministry of Transportation, the Indonesia Chamber of Commerce and Industry, and the Global 5T movement is very much in line with our commitment to sustainable development goals and our ambitious target of achieving net zero emission by 2060. At the heart of this initiative is the development of an urban electric vehicle ecosystem with abundant renewable energy resources. Indonesia uniquely positioned to lead the sustainable mobility movement. Electric vehicles are a cleaner and more efficient alternative to traditional mode of transportation, moving us toward net zero emission and sustainable development goal while creating new industry and job opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, we have made commendable progress on this part by improving the regulatory framework, attracting investment in EV manufacturing, and partnering with the private sector to build critical infrastructure. President Regulation number 55 of 2019 on accelerate of the battery electric vehicle program for road transportation, followed by the President Regulation number 79 of 2023 are some of the commitment that we have made to achieve this goal. However, I embrace that our journey is far from over. This is where the power of collaboration comes into focus, given the outcome of the 90 ITS IC Pacific Forum in 2024. It is imperative that we foster partnership and recognize the importance of collaborating between the government, private sector, civil society, and international organizations. It is through this joint effort that we can address challenges, drive innovation, and advance electric vehicle Indonesia. Today's webinar serves as an important platform for dialogue, a source of inspiration for partnership, and call to action for all stakeholders in the mobility sector. Together, we can create a future where transportation is not only smart, but also sustainable, benefit current and future generations. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this event yields concrete recommendations and valuable ideas that will advance the future of mobility in our country. We look forward to our collective action to realize our vision of sustainable electric vehicle ecosystem in Indonesia, leading us toward sustainable and smart urban mobility landscape. Thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you very much, Pak Suharto, for your remarks. Now we will move to the main event of the Jakarta Initiative webinar series, Partnership for Advancing EV Ecosystem. The session will be moderated by Ibu Tyas Widyastuti, Vice President of ITS Indonesia and also the Director of Two Wheels and Logistics at Grab Indonesia. Bu Tyas, the time is yours.
Thank you, Inara. Hello, everyone. Please introduce myself. My name is Tyas. I'm leading the mobility and logistics here in Grab Indonesia. So I'm very glad here to welcome all the speakers, and I'll moderate the session today. With the main theme of partnerships for advancing EV ecosystem, this webinar aims to shape a more sustainable and intelligent urban mobility landscape through discussion and innovative solutions in the EV ecosystem. First of all, I would like to welcome our distinguished webinar speakers, Mr. Andrew Aristianto, Pa Andrew, Chief Strategy Officer of the Bluebird Company, Mr. Prabhaharan Gopalan, Chief Strategy Officer of PT Indica Energy, Mr. Mesra Eza, Deputy Executive Director of Millennium Challenge Account Indonesia 2, here also represented by Mr. Rakanda Pranidana Jamal, EV Project Officer Millennium Challenge Account Indonesia 2, Ms. Batari Saraswati, Director of Systemic, Mr. Christoph Burda, President of Polish Chamber of E-Mobility Development Association. Thank you for giving your precious time for the ITS webinar today. And I would also love to greet all the participants who are joining us online today. First of all, would like to share a little bit about what Grab is doing. So in July 2024, Grab has operated more than 10,000 electric vehicles with more than 250 million kilometer journey in 8 cities in Indonesia. And last week, we actually just launched an additional 1,000 electric cars ready to operate until the end of 2024. So that's our commitment. However, we as institutions, as company, as government and society will be much, much more stronger, as Pa Suharto just mentioned, with collective actions through partnerships and also collaboration. So in this webinar, we will hear more from our distinguished speakers that I've mentioned earlier about what and how we can further advance and grow Indonesia's EV ecosystem. For the participants, please do drop your questions and response through the Q&A button and comment below. There's available in your Zoom window. Send your questions with your name, institution, and also the guest speaker that you would like to ask the question to. So without further ado, I would like to invite Mr. Andrew Aristianto, as our first speaker to share his view. The floor is yours, Pa.
Thank you, Tyas. Thank you for having us here as we wait for the slides to load. Okay. Very good day to everybody. My name is Andrew Aristianto. I'm the Chief Strategic Officer here at Bluebird Group. My office is responsible for our sustainable move here at Bluebird Group. So we're going to take this opportunity to tell a bit of what we're doing and what we are planning to do here at Bluebird Group. Next slide, please. So a brief introduction to Bluebird. We are a company that was established 52 years ago. We started out as a taxi company, but obviously now we are evolving and adapting and also moving on to becoming a mobility company. Our core values is about caring, integrity, service excellence, and growth mindset. And this caring is what has been embedded in our DNA from day one by our founder, Ibu Mutiara Siti Fatima Joko Sutono, as a main pillar of the company, and also the main reason why our ESG play is also very important to us. Next slide, please. Now, when we're talking about ESG, obviously we have a lot of programs that we do here at Bluebird, but for the context of the webinar today, we are going to focus on the environment play that we have here at Bluebird. So the environment is something that is very important to us. Obviously, as a transportation player here in Indonesia, we are aware that our operations do have negative effects on the environment. We started out in 2018 by adopting CNG fleet in Bluebird, which we recognize as a fuel that is also much better for the environment with lower carbon emissions. But in 2019, we started to launch the EV taxis that we operate and also car rentals here at Bluebird. In 2022, we tried to solidify this story by launching our Bluebird Sustainability Vision. And we continue onwards to 2023, and now that we are already operating more than 3,200 CNG vehicles and also 200 EV vehicles within our fleet. Next, please. So our Bluebird Sustainability Vision for 2030 is that we are going to reduce our carbon emissions by 50% by 2030. This is very important to us, as I said, because as a mobility operator, we understand that mobility is also very important, which is recognized during the COVID era when mobility of the people was very limited. But we see that the environment gained a lot of advantages from the lack of mobility, but the economy suffered from it. So we have to figure out a way that we can provide mobility through a sustainable vision. And now our goal is 50% reduced emissions by 2030, which is significantly more aggressive than what the government has already set out for. But we are very optimistic that this is a goal that we can achieve together. Next, please. So obviously, to achieve that, EVs is going to play a very important role in achieving that goal. There are a lot of stakeholders that we are seeing that needs to work together. There's the government, obviously, which we see through 2019 to 2024 has helped a lot through regulations that encourages people to take the leap into the EV movement. There needs to be EV-related industries so that the EVs can be more reliable, more usable, and also more economical. any energy suppliers in the form of charging stations, state-owned enterprises, manufacturers, and obviously individuals that also join in the EV movement, so that at the end of the day, EV adoption through higher visibility of EVs on the road and increasing confidence in EV adoption can be achieved. Because what we learned from the early days of us adopting EVs was that even the questions on whether or not the EVs will be able to send our customers to their final destinations, or what will happen in case that it starts to rain while riding in an EV, all these early questions are obviously now not so common anymore, but there is still some hesitance within the public towards the EVs. And obviously the EV value chain, which is also very important to us, and also what we saw has come a long way since 2019, especially in the supporting infrastructure, where in the beginning, when we started to bring in the EVs early in 2019, we had to bring up and provide for our own infrastructure. We had to make our own used EV market, figure out how to maintain these vehicles, operate it, and even how to import the vehicles here into Indonesia, as at that time there were no EV OEMs at that time. Next, please. Now, we have started to also spread out our operations, especially with our new capital, IKN, where I think it's well known that EVs are the preferred and also the only type of transportation that's going to be operating in IKN. We are very proud that we are been able to take part in the providing for the public transportation in IKN. And also, we have also leveraged on our skills on making and also operating in charging infrastructure, so that now we have public charging stations in Jimbaran, Bali, and also the use of solar panels to provide energy to our buildings and in our operations. That is pretty much the last slide from myself. Open to all the questions if there are any. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Andrew. For the participants, please do drop your questions and response in the using the button below. We will address all the questions towards the end. So thank you so much, Pak Andrew, for sharing. Let's move on to the next our next guest speaker, Mr. Prabaharan Gopalan. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Tyas. Good afternoon. Thank you, ITS, for the opportunity, and good afternoon to fellow panelists. It's good to be here to talk about our journey in electric vehicles. Quick introduction. I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for Indica Group's electric vehicle ecosystem businesses, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And just a quick overview in the next page on what we have.
I fully agree with you that this discussion is actually very helpful for us to be able to at least open to the idea, listening to each other, and start the collaborations, because as you mentioned, we will not be able to do it by ourselves. So it needs everyone's collaboration. So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Prabha. And let's move on to the next speaker, which is from Millennium Challenge Account, Indonesia too. So there's Mr. Rakanda Pranidana Jamal, and then there will be also Mr. Mesra Eza as Deputy Executive Director of Millennium Challenge Account. The floor is yours, Mr. Rakanda.
Thank you very much, Ibu Tyas. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear my voice clearly?
Maybe just speak a little bit louder so that we can hear you
Okay.
better. Yeah, thank you.
So, how about now? Can you hear the voice?
Yes, this is better.
Okay,
Thank
that's
you.
good. Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Whom I respect, Mr. Budi Karya Sumadi, Bapak Budi Karya Sumadi, or the one who represent Suharto, the President of ITS Indonesia, Bapak William Sabandar, and also the Vice President of ITS Indonesia, Ibu Tyas, and also the Vice Chairman of Transportation Chambers and Commerce and Industry of Indonesia, Bapak Denon Prawiratmaja, or the one who represent, and also the Chief Strategic Officer of Indica Energy, Mr. Prabaharan Gopalan, and then Mr. Andrew Aristianto, the Chief Strategy Officer of Bluebird, the President of Police Chambers of E-Mobility Development Association, Mr. Christoph Burda, and also Ibu Batari Saraswati, or the one who represent from the systemic, and all the participants, which I cannot say one by one. Here, my name is Rakanda. Here I represent the Millennium and we are thank you for the opportunity so that we from MCI Indonesia can provide some insight regarding the EV ecosystem in Indonesia, especially regarding our program, one of our program, which is about the EV charging point provision as part of a real contribution for the development of EV in Indonesia. So I would like to introduce a bit about the MCA Indonesia. MCA Indonesia, or Millennium Challenge Account Indonesia, is a trustee institution which formed by the Bappenas to manage the grant funding from an organization from the US called Millennium Challenge Corporation, in form of a program called Compact Program 2. So this program aims at reducing the global poverty through innovative finance. Here in MCA Indonesia, we got three main programs. The first one is related to this today's topic, called Advancing Transport and Logistic Accessibility Service, or we call Atlas project, which the EV project which I introduced at the beginning is part of this program. And the second program is called Financial Market Development Project, or we call it as an FMDP. And the third one is access to finance for women-owned or micro, small MSME enterprise project, or we call also MSME finance project. Transportation aspect being one of the main aspect in this program, in this compact program. And we have like sub-program called Good Practice Infrastructure Project as part of this Atlas program, which one of the project are regard to EV ecosystem development by providing the EV charging point in Bali province. At this time, the program is in the feasibility studies stage, and then later in the future we will continue to the next stage, which is a transaction to take part to involve the partnership private partner like that. And then we also have this FMDP, which in this program there is a project called Blended Finance Drive Delivery Mechanism as part of this FMDP program, which one of the project is to support financing for Transjakarta in providing electric vehicle bus to strengthen the EV ecosystem in Jakarta. And then the GPIP pilot project hopefully can provide lots of benefit for the infrastructure transportation in Indonesia. So the infrastructure system can be sustainable in the future. And then this program, I think, also in line with one of ITS Indonesia mission as an organization that would like to contribute in the development of EV ecosystem and also the sustainable transport ecosystem. Hopefully in the future, this MC program that we will get more understanding about our program in the future later after my introduction from Mr. Eza in a video format. Hopefully this program can be a lesson learned that can be disseminated to all stakeholders, either central government or local government, also private partner. So the program itself can create a better planning process, transaction process, construction process, or the operational process of this transportation infrastructure in the future. So after this, you will see a video more about the project which explained by Mr. Mesra Ezra, the Deputy Executive Director of Infrastructure Finance in MCA Indonesia. Thank you very much. You can play the video. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. His Excellency, Bapak Menteri Perhubungan, my good friends, Mas Vivi. So it has been a long time. We are not being in touch. We were, I think first time we get in touch when we were in Aceh. Mas Willy, ingat ya, kita di Nias, Mas Willy di BRL, I was in the World Bank. Okay, all participants, first of all, I would like to convey my apology because I cannot be with you lively in this great webinar because of some reason. So again, my apology. So with that, please allow me to start my presentation. I'll start with the first slide to introduce to you what the Millennium Challenge Account Indonesia is. So the MCAI established by the Minister of Bappenas through the Peraturan Menteri Nomor 5 tahun 2022. So we are an accountable entity to manage the $650 million grant from the MCC or Millennium Challenge Corporation, as you can see below. The MCAI led by Board of Trustee, or we call Majelis Wali Amanat in Bahasa. So this Board of Trustee led by the chairwoman, which is Ibu Sekretaris Utama Bappenas. The MWA or Majelis Wali Amanat comprises of several echelon 1 from the related ministries and the community representative, such as NGOs, Kadin, and university. Now, the Millennium Challenge Corporation. So this institution is an innovative and independent U.S. foreign assistance agency, like USAID, which you are familiar with. This institution established in January 2004. The objective of this institution is to promote economic growth, reducing poverty, and strengthening the government institution. MCC committed to provide 650 million grant to the government of Indonesia. And the grant agreement has been signed by the Minister of Finance of Indonesia and the Secretary of Treasury of the US government. That was back, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in April 2023. So this is the structure of the infrastructure financing program within Compact. Compact is the program we call on this context. So these are the stages of the project cycle, which I'm sure you are familiar with: origination, planning, budgeting, preparation, transaction, construction, operation, and maintenance. Under this stage of project cycle, we divided our program into two. The upper part, we call it a demand side, which is related to the preparation of the project and execution of the project. So on each stages, we have activities. On the origination, we have transfer planning, logistic studies, and planning budgeting, we have public investment management guideline, so on and so forth. So I will not going to go in detail on this. I will distribute this presentation material to all of you later on. So these are what we call the demand side. On the supply side, we also have a program we call Financial Market Development Project, or FMDP. Under FMDP, we have 3 activities: transaction advisory, blended finance delivery mechanism, and capacity building. So these are the touch point between the program on the demand side and the supply side. Actually, this is to ease the financial sector to participate in the infrastructure project. We are not going to talk about that, but this is what our program looks like. So where the Bali EV charging station project originated from? So the Bali EV charging station is part of the activities we call good practice infrastructure project. I'll explain to you later on what the GPIP is. Okay, now what is GPIP? The background of the GPIP, as you can see, under the infrastructure program, we have 2 activities. First, what we call financial market development. Second, what we call Atlas. And the third point here is also part of the grant, but this is taken care by different unit within MCI. So see. Okay, so under Atlas, we have 4 activities. One, what we call GPIP. Second, the project preparation and delivery facility. Third, public investment management guideline. And the 4, transport planning reform. We are not talking about the rest of 3, 2, 3, 4, but we are going to talk about number 1, the good practice infrastructure project. So the GPIP, we are targeted 5 provinces: Bali, North Sulawesi, Riau Island, and South Sumatra. So in Bali, we are now conducting a feasibility study for electric vehicle charging station. So what are the objectives of the study or of the activity? The objective is actually to help the Bali government to accelerate the adoption of the EV to reduce emission and improve air quality in Bali. So these are the project background. So, as we all know, Bali provincial government has developed a regional action plan for EV adoption. This is to provide a widely available EV charging station in the entire Bali as an option to encourage the EV users in Bali. EV usage in Bali. The second background is that we all know that all private EV charging station operator must operate under license or agreement with PLN. So this is another point that we have discussing how we are going to deal with this. So those are the background of the project. So now these are the strategic issues that we found in Bali. First, the increasing GHG emission and air pollution from transportation, tailpipe emissions keep increasing in Bali, as already in other locations, Jakarta as well. Second, EV adoption is behind target set in the Bali Regional Action Plan. The third is the limited charging infrastructure availability in Bali. for the low utilization of the existing charging station. So these are the four strategic issues that we are trying to say sort of mitigate. Okay, let's see detail of each of the strategic issues. Under strategic issues number 1, we all familiar that the transportation sector counts for 36% of the GHG emission that we are all know very well. Second, EV adoption in Bali is still far from the set target. We found by 2023, the 2 EV wheeler is only 0.09% of the motorcycle, of the entire motorcycle. On the passenger car, even less, 0.1%. Yeah, sorry, 0.1 is bigger, right? I may interchange the number, but this is the fact. Third, on the charging infrastructure availability. Okay, the EV charging points, available right now in Bali, far behind the target, only 20% of the target. And this is the more interesting thing. Although we have had some charging station, the absence of the activities within the proximity of the EV charging station does not attract, many EV users to use the EV charging station. So these are the strategic issues that we are trying to mitigate. So if we can mitigate all these 4 strategic issues, we expect we can accelerate the adoption of the EV much faster to reduce the emission and improve air quality in Bali. What are the overall project stages that we are working on? So on the feasibility study now we are doing, we set 6 decision points. So this 6 decision points are established to serve as a determining factor to decide whether the project are feasible and to proceed with the next phase. We are all aware that in many of the feasibility studies, normally we have like 3 or 4 deliverables. And the decision point may be 1 or 2 decision points that we set during the feasibility study. But in this case, we intentionally set like 6 decision points. Why? Because while doing the feasibility study, we also have one other equally important objective, which is to provide a sort of capacity development to the Bali government officer for them to have a better way to conduct a feasibility study. So what are those 4 decision points? Decision point 1 is to check, does the project have strategic value and address needs? I mean, whether we are going to address the needs of the public. If yes, then we go to the next step. On the next step, we have decision point number 2 that will check whether the project meet the objective and investment criteria set by the MCC. The third decision point, we are going to check whether any fatal flows that cannot be mitigated. If it does, we are not going to proceed with the next stage in the feasibility study. So I will distribute to all of you my entire slide so then you can see this one by one. So let's move into the next slide. So this is the EV charging station demand analysis we are now conducting. So based on our initial assessment, which is now we are trying to refine it further, but we are a bit confident this initial demand analysis will not change so much in the future. So the demand projection for both the 4-wheelers and 2-wheelers produced, then this demand projection then used to calculate the number of EV charging stations required in Bali. So we found out that 295 charging station for four-wheelers and 725 charging station for the four-wheeler is required for the entire body. So that's our first conclusion on the analysis now we are conducting. To the left, this is the sort of flow chart how we conducted the projection. So from that projection, we concluded that by 2031, we will need 295 charging stations for two-wheelers and another, sorry, for the four-wheelers and another 725 point charging station for the two-wheelers. So these are our finding of the analysis so far. So from those evaluation, then we are trying to do a sort of more what do you call it? More detailed screening on the needs. What is the basis of our screening is first based on the point of interest. So we check, all those 325 certain locations, we were checking whether there are tourism destination, government offices, restaurant, transport hub, so on and so forth. And then the scoring of that location are based on the attractiveness, traffic generation, and we also use the Google review on each of the point of interest that we already indicated earlier. And we also consider the public en route location. So consideration are taking based on petrol station located along the major arterial roads. So these are the assessment methodology. And from there, we end up with this sort of distribution of the EV charging station point we need in the entire Bali. So we also consider the critical range radius to locate the EV charging point. We consider as in 50 kilometers as the range of the unsafety of the EV charging user while they are using the EV charge. So based on that, we indicate that the baseline or the bottom line, what the Sarbagata area need now for the charging station is about 360 location for the four-wheeler and another 42 location for the four-wheelers. So I think with that, I will close my presentation, and later on, if you have any question, recommendation, or input, please address that to our team, which are going to be online with you. Is Mas Rakanda, and he is also accompanied by our consultant from PwC, Mr. Julian Smith. So with that, I resume my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Mezra. And thank you also to Mas Rakanda. I think a very elaborate methodology that has been shared just now on how do we evaluate whether or not we should invest in advancing EV ecosystem. I think one of the examples that was shared was the EV charging station in Bali. So I think that is very relevant with Pasigit Prasetya's question in the Q&A box. I guess on top of the answer from Mr. Prabaharan, thank you for answering the question as well. You also have a more elaborated methodology to evaluate the charging station investment. So thank you for that. Moving on to the next speaker, we have Ms. Batari Saraswati. Without further ado, I will just give the floor to you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Tyas. Yeah, thank you, ITS Indonesia. Thank you, Pak William, and partners for organizing this great event. I'm very happy to be here. I'll just provide a brief presentation to complement the insights that have been shared by the other panelists. I think let's go to the next slide, please. I'll start by stating the obvious that transport is the second largest contributor to carbon emission in Indonesia, and transport is also a significant source of air pollution. So as the charts illustrate, the transport sector is a close second to power generation in terms of emissions, and transport also contributes to significant NOx and particulate matter PM that pollute the air. So tackling transport-related emissions is essential for improving air quality in urban areas like Jakarta. And one of the ways to do so is through electrification. In the next slide, please. Indonesia leads Southeast Asia both in number of four-wheelers as well as two-wheelers vehicles. And this is, of course, positively correlated with our number of populations. And it presents a significant challenge when we want to transition from fossil fuel-based to electric vehicle, because we must focus not only on converting the existing users, but also to convert our productions and the supply chain. In the next slide, we try to take a deeper look onto the two-wheelers market. So in Indonesia, two-wheelers is one of our main mode of transport. Two-wheelers dominate our Indonesia vehicle populations, making the electrification crucial. Government of Indonesia aims to electrify two-wheelers, targeting 2 million electric two-wheelers by 2025 and 13 million by 2030. However, the penetration rate is currently lagging. And as been mentioned by other panelists, there are several challenges, including accessibility issues, such as availability of charging infrastructure, charging times, as well as product market fit. When we look into the total cost of ownership, so this is the cost that customer must provide when they want to acquire electric two-wheelers. So the total cost of ownership, we compare between electric two-wheelers and ICE or internal combustion engine are almost competitive. However, there is one significant barrier. So the high financing cost is still a barrier, as 70% of Indonesians purchase private vehicles through leasing or credits. And interest rates for electric two-wheelers are currently less favorable compared to the conventional two-wheelers, and largely due to uncertainties of resale value, and that increases the risk for financing companies. So although we look at the market and the target is exciting, however, looking at where the technology at the moment, the total cost of ownership is also very promising. However, when we look into the breakdown of the cost, for example, the financing cost, we do have some homework to work on. And if we could reduce the financing cost, which is currently like 25% of the total electric two-wheelers acquisition cost, we could increase the attractiveness and increase the adoption rate. Looking into public transport, other than two-wheelers, electrifying public transport, particularly buses, is also key to reducing greenhouse gas emissions and air pollutions. In the next slide. Jakarta has set a target of 100% electrification of its bus fleet by 2030, and targeting the deployment of more than 10,000 electric buses. And this target is ambitious. If you look at London, at Bangkok, Santiago, this is quite ambitious, but also very exciting. But of course, when we of course there will be an upfront cost, and since buses is the budget coming from the state budget, so there is a significant barrier in terms of allocating and addressing the upfront cost needed to deploy the electric buses. Looking at the benefits, so transitioning to electric buses in Jakarta will yield significant environmental, economic, and social benefits, including major reduction in CO2 emissions, decreased fuel subsidies, and increased battery demand, which is good for the EV ecosystem due to the economy of scale. And if we reduce the emissions, we reduce the pollutants, that will improve the public health due to lower pollutants in the air. And these benefits underline the multiplier effect of electrifying public transport. However, despite some progress as of now, the actual adoption rate is below the target, with several bus operators struggling to transition to e-buses due to various barriers. The primary issues include the high upfront cost of procuring electric buses, as I mentioned before. And this is particularly challenging for smaller operators who may lack the necessary financial resources. Another challenge is the productive age of existing ICE buses. Operators with newer ICE buses are often hesitant to switch due to the high switching costs and the need for behavior change. And to address these challenges, we should consider reducing upfront costs through leasing and implementing fiscal incentives or guarantee mechanism to facilitate financing for bus operators. Next slide, please. So moving forward, advancing the EV ecosystem in Jakarta requires a multi-layer approach. I think everyone's here have the same goal, that you want to have transportations that are sustainable, that are more intelligent, and therefore electrification is one of the solutions where. And in order to advance EV ecosystem, then we need to there are several key areas that we can continue to work on. First is product market and infrastructure readiness. First, we need to ensure that OEM increase model availability and that the supply chain is ready to support the growing demand of EVs. Investing ahead of the curve in EV charging infrastructure is critical to support the targeted volume EVs on the road. And we can continue to explore innovative business models such as leasing, charging as a service, battery as a service, that can reduce the upfront cost for customer and operators, making EVs more accessible. The second bucket also continue to work on financing and de-risking measures. Exploring alternative financing options are necessary to supplement the traditional instruments, such as concessional loans, partial risk-sharing guarantee that could help to bridge the gap between high upfront costs and the financial constraints of potential buyers. De-risking measures such as product quality assurance, buyback programs in case there is a credit default, and the development of secondary market that can instill greater market confidence and reduce perceived risk. Finally, a supportive policy framework and fiscal incentives to drive this transition, and this will include mechanism to promote total cost of to continue reduce the total cost of acquiring electric two-wheelers, electric four-wheelers, or electric buses. And I think, of course, we should continue to foster collaboration and synergy, as the other panelists mentioned, Prabhaharan mentioned, Tyas mentioned that we cannot do this alone. So in its partnership between the think tanks, the private sector, as well as the public and government. Thank you. I think I'll stop there, and we can continue in our Q&A session. I'll hand it over back to Tyas.
Thank you, Ms. Batari. Thank you for sharing that. And I think let me just quickly recap because we already have 4 speakers and we're looking forward to the last but not least, Mr. Christoph. But let me quickly recap. I think first we have heard Mr. Andrew shared about Bluebird's plan to grow mobility through sustainability vision of 5030. And then we also heard from Indica Group from Mr. Prabhaharan about the Indica's commitment to accelerate the electric mobility transition. And we start we started hearing about financing and infrastructure are the biggest challenge of advancing the EV ecosystem here in Indonesia. Specifically, I think the cities that kept being mentioned is also Jakarta and Bali. And from MCA, Pamesra, we also heard about the methodology and what are the programs that MCA has, especially how to provide and develop the EV ecosystem here in Bali, and also how they provide a methodology as well on how to provide financing for Transjakarta to increase EV adoption in Jakarta. So we heard a lot about challenges, and just now Ms. Batari mentioned about not only financing and infrastructure, but also the policies, the government policies, like what are the conducive government policies that should be there in place to facilitate all these partnership and collaborations to advance EV ecosystem. So I think we heard a lot about challenges in Indonesia. Would love to hear more from a different continent, from Mr. Christoph Burda. Would love to hear your perspective as well about actions from Europe that you have seen, and probably something that we can learn from. The floor is yours, Mr. Christoph.
Thank you very much. Hello, Tyas. Hello, everyone. Selamat datang. I would like to thank you, Mr. Pak William, and all of ITS Indonesia and 5P Global Movement team for having me here. Thank you very much for distinguished speakers today, because I have learned a lot of new things about the EV ecosystem in Indonesia, and thank you very much for these impressions. And I try to give you another perspective from the Europe, but from slightly different point of view, because I focus on mostly on the economy and what doing the EV ecosystem for the economy. So let me start with the short introduction about the Polish Chamber for E-Mobility Development. We are organization, one of the largest in Poland, and we are operating also in Europe. Now we are industry organization which is involved in the market development of electromobility, especially in the field to prepare good conditions for the electromobility. We advise the government, especially from the business to the government, what we should do in next steps. And during the presentation, you can see also some next big challenges for the electromobility. We can't speak about electromobility without the partnerships, because electromobility is a global issue. Why? You see on the chart in previous presentation, because the road transport is generating around 23 to nearly 30% of greenhouse gases emissions, and other emissions like NOx. So this is one of the first, and I think easy to transform, but it's not easy at all. Next slide, please. In Polish Chamber of Electromobility Development, we just have a lot of companies developing this market from different sides. Next slide, please. These companies are from a totally different point of view of the electromobility market. They are representing companies producing components, producing charging stations, electric vehicles, components for electric vehicles, batteries, components for the batteries, special economic zones. It's really important, especially when we talk about the investments, but also companies which can advise how to do that, help with the legislation, because it's not easy, and educate people. Next slide, please. And another one. Oh, thank you very much. this is how we see the e-mobility ecosystem. On the top, we know that electromobility is the answer for the sustainable development goals, especially at all for the climate goals, climate actions, because this is the one of the best tool, and we should treat electromobility like a tool for decarbonize the road transport. Of course, we have many types of the road transport, the passenger vehicles, for example, 2- and 4-wheelers, as mentioned before, and road heavy-duty transportation, electric buses and electric trucks. But when we see on this chart with the e-mobility ecosystem, climate goals and decarbonization of the transport is the top of our priority. But how we can do that? In Europe, we start with the public transportation because this is the most effective way to reduce the greenhouse gases emissions in the cities, reduce other pollutants in the pollutions in the cities, and this is the fastest way how to build the public awareness, because without the public acceptance for new technologies, for changes, people just aware of the changes, we can build proper e-mobility ecosystem, and people will have a lot of thoughts about why we need that, how we can charge it, how long the battery will live. Electric buses is a first step how we can make this transformation in all sector. And in Europe, and of course in Poland, we start with the electric buses and chargers for electric buses. People try electric vehicles. Of course, they were only passengers, but that was totally different experience when you have no noise, you have no pollutions. You can charge this bus next to the buildings. You can build new bus stops next to the buildings without any disturb of the citizens next to the bus stop. That was completely different. Next step, of course, is passenger vehicles, because this is massive adoption of the electromobility. But there we have another big point, as I mentioned, legislation. Because without the good regulations to first giving them some targets, government's targets, and proper law, how we can reach these goals, we can't do this. The business can't invest in the electromobility because they need some directions of the development of the market. So in Europe, we've got all European regulations related to Green Deal politics. This is green politics for all of member states, countries in the European Union. And in Poland, we've got own implementation of these regulations because each directive from the European Union are announced and turned into the force, and next some of them should be implemented individual by countries, and some of them are all of union regulations. For example, regulations for the charging infrastructure next to the motorways and expressways, and how we can do that in whole Europe to make one whole system with the network of the charging infrastructure. Of course, when we see the infrastructure side, we also talk about the infrastructure in the cities, how we can make some places for citizens in the metropolis, in the cities. it depends of the number of the vehicles. It depends of the locations, because location is a king. When we have a potential for building the charging station, we can choose between slow charging, for example, next to the restaurant, shopping mall, place where we are for example 2-4 hours. When we go to the cinema, okay, this place could install also a slow charging station when we can just plug our vehicle. But of course, we need DC charging stations. DC, I mean fast charging stations, where we can charge our vehicle in 20-40 minutes. It depends of the power of the charging station, and of course how much power our vehicle can reach. So this is really important when we think about how we can do proper conditions, because sometimes people need charging in the city center, like a petrol station, to keep drivers' behavior. For example, once a week, I used to go to the petrol station to fuel my car. Okay, once a week I can refuel energy in the electric vehicle on the petrol station, but not on the refueling system, but in the charging station. And we need both of them and make good network of the charging station. And this is the challenge for the charging point operators, and of course for the energy system, because the really important part of the building of the good e-mobility ecosystem is the energy sector. Indonesia and Poland have similar energy production structure. Main energy came from coal. This is not good for the energy transformation, because we need more renewable energy sources. But in this bad energy mix, we also save the greenhouse emissions using electric vehicles. So the road transformation should be go hand by hand or shoulder by shoulder with the energy transformation. And when we are using the green energy to power electric vehicle, this is the best way how we can do that. Of course, we need technologies. This opportunity for startups, for universities, and in Indonesia, you have great potential in Sumbawa Technology University, where they are working on the electric vehicles and charging systems. Of course, we need new specialists, so we have to do something more with the vocational schools, trainings, educational centers, etc., etc. And we come back to the public awareness. We build the public awareness with all of these things. Last things here, I would like to say about the incentives, because we are talking about financing. Of course, charging electric vehicles are more expensive at this moment than internal combustion engine vehicles, and some incentives are really important. In Poland, Polish government prepare incentives for buying four-wheelers for private people and for companies. We've got nearly 1 billion Polish zlotys in the budget, and we can reach the subsidy around 4,000 or 6,700 US dollars. For the buying or lease the electric vehicle. It depends of the some conditions, but we have two level of the amount of the incentives. And next, I think incentives are really important, especially in the beginning of the market development. But we should think what we can do after the budget just will run out. And this is more important, how we can stimulate the market after the incentives. And we should think about it before we start the incentives. So next slide, please. And now I would like to talk about the partnership, because we think the partnership is really important in the building of the e-mobility ecosystem. We do that with partners from Indonesia for almost 4 years, actually, because we have an occasion to learn more how is building the e-mobility ecosystem and education during the Global E-Mobility Forum. We have also occasion to be on the B20 summit in Bali and heard about the great plans for the electromobility development. And one accent from Poland next to the Kemlu, Minister of Foreign Affairs of Indonesia, is staying Polish charging station produced and granted by Ekoenergetyka Polska company, producing charging stations in Poland. That was one of the first charging stations from Poland, definitely, and probably from Europe too. I hope that that could be that is the good start also for business cooperation, because technology transfer and electromobility is a global issue, as I mentioned before. Next slide, please. And as you can see on the previous photos, and here we have also an occasion to be a part of the ITS Asia Pacific Forum 2024 in June this year. Thank you very much again for having us there. And we started the initiative with the 5P global movement, 5P MOB Road to COP. On the previous photos you can see previous editions of the MOB Road to COP here in the Vatican, because we reach different parties to help make the public awareness about the electromobility and take their declaration to support of the market development, and of course to promote electric mobility as a clean vehicles, helping reducing the greenhouse gases during the usage. And this year's edition is, of course, with cooperation with Indonesia. We will promote Jakarta Declaration and Driving Change Together Partnership 2.0, what we are working on with the 5P and ITS and CADIN, of course. And I hope that finish in Baku will be feast for every participant of this project. Next slide, please. As a business way of the collaboration was also visit of the Mr. Arshad Rashid, the chairman of the CADIN in Warsaw last month. We had an opportunity to present more companies from the electromobility from Poland, their technologies, and the potential of the e-mobility ecosystem. Next slide, please. And I would like to come back for a moment for the education, because when we talk about the new economy, new perspective for the companies, new technologies, we also should think about the skills and how we can reach the skills, because in Europe, the electromobility sector has around 13-15 years of from the beginning, and I can bet that nobody from these people which are started this market, nobody finish the e-mobility faculty, because now we are working on the e-mobility faculty. And for example, as a Polish Chamber for Electromobility Development Association with Patryk Kniaś, another expert, we are make a new profession of the technical faculty, the electromobility technican. It will be forced to the schools next year. That was in cooperation with the Ministry of Education in Poland. And another two projects are related to vocational schools. And this is a new, completely new point of view for the vocational trainings, also for adult people which would like to change their profession to electromobility. And in Poland, just was created 53 sector skills centers. Two of them are with our partnerships in Opole and in Nowa Sól, and they are focusing on the electromobility. First in Opole on the diagnosis and repairs of the electric vehicles, and second one in Nowa Sól on the electric part of the electromobility, for example, charging stations, relation to the grid, and it could help to educate people involved in the installation or maintenance and services of the charging points. Next slide, please. And now, shortly, I would like to focus on the economy, because another point of view for economy is what electromobility do for our country. And for example, since 2015, foreign direct investment in Poland reached around 75 billion Polish zlotych amount. There we have a lot of Korean investments in Poland, and this is the main investor, and some German companies and global companies like Stellantis, and you can see the investment on the map. Next slide. But I would like to show you that this production from this sector is also huge, because every year we have around 60, that's the data for 2023, 60 billion euros for the export, and battery sector is really dominant at this all electromobility picture, because this market is growing, and for the 2023, the export from this area was on the amount 20 billion Polish zlotych, and we are exporting these batteries to the Germany, Mexico, France, Belgium, and the US. So I think it's also electromobility sector is important for Indonesia, because Indonesia is #1 in the nickel production, one of the most important raw material for the active cathode material, and every producer of the battery cells need it. So it's really good for this sector. Next slide, please. As you can see on this map of the investment, we have some specialization in Poland. For example, we've got a specialization in electric buses production here in Wrocław and Słupsk. There were huge companies like Scania and Volvo. We have here in Poznań the biggest exporter in Poland, Solaris Bus and Couch. They are exporting to all of European countries. Here we've got some producers of the battery and hydrogen electric buses, Artur Bus and Nesobus, and some other companies like RPE vehicles with really good technology of smaller electric bus, and some other companies here and here. About the battery sector, as I mentioned before, the Korean investments started in 2015 here in Wrocław by the investments of the LG Energy Solution. Now around the LG Energy Solutions, we've got all of the value chain of the cooperants. They are producing housing, cables, they are producing electrolyte, and other components for the batteries. And of course, we've got also some vehicle producers here in Poznań and Września. Volkswagen Group Polska has producing electric buses here in Jawor. Also, Mercedes-Benz produced the batteries here, and on the Silesia region, Stellantis has production of the two car production facilities, first for the buses and second one for electric Jeep and Fiat brands. So another one of the specialization is charging stations. We've got both AC and DC charging producer here in Szczecin. We've got one of the biggest producer of the AC charging station here in Zielona Góra in our hometown. Is Energetyka, one of the biggest DC charging station manufacturer, and other companies here, Medcom, Prebiel, and Enelion here, and other companies involved in this market. So next slide, please. As you can see, this concentration of the battery value chain give Poland the second position in the worldwide battery production capacity by country. First, of course, is China, because they have a biggest battery manufacturing at all in the world. After that, we are still, but we think that we lost this second position to US because US are much bigger than Poland, and to the Hungary, because in Hungary there we have some Chinese investments from CATL and if in the battery production. So they capacity of battery production is growing, and in Poland is also growing by the investment of LG Energy Solutions. And we think that some of other foreign direct investments will come to Poland because of the location, and this is our advantage. And I think the same advantage has Indonesia, the location for all of ASEAN area could be the most important factor to build the battery production volumes in Indonesia. Next slide, please. And here we can see the growing of the market from 2018. Here you've got on the chart the pink one line. This is especially for the batteries only. And you can see that this market is growing around 3 billion euros of export per year. So this is really huge amount of the value of the export, and of course other components and total export also. But batteries is a driver for the e-mobility sector in Poland. Next slide, please. And of course, as I mentioned before, the electromobility is also great chance for the technology, for new technologies. We are building in Zielona Góra the technology incubator, e-mobility innovation hub for startups. We are cooperate with startups. They are creating new technology, for example, new battery technology with the bigger energy density and from energy sector, and we are helping them to go on the market, reach some funds, and you can see on the next slide. Next slide, please. also what we are doing here with the experts, R&D projects, how to help startups with the acceleration and scale-up projects, and of course VC financing, because especially in the beginning of the running the business, you need some funds to create good technology. So thank you very much. That was last slide from my side. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christoph. Very interesting sharing that you have there. Very different from what we have seen here in Indonesia. Very excited to see all the e-mobility innovation hubs, and then like the enablers of all the e-mobility ecosystem that you mentioned. That everything starts with public transportation to create the public awareness, the legislation, the importance of the fast charging stations, and also the incentives that you mentioned, right? Especially when we're just about to start, when a country is just about to start, it's very, very important to have that incentive for to fasten and accelerate the adoption. But after that, we'll need to think about the sustainability, because we may not have the budget forever. So thank you for sharing that, Mr. Christoph. We are running out of time. We may have only time for one question. So we have chosen a question from Nurul Aini, that is available in the Q&A box. So Nurul Aini asked this question from Erlangga University. Thank you for the great question. So what role does the private sector, particularly transport companies such as Grab, Gojek, and Bluebird, play in the development of the EV ecosystem? So I think it's a private sector in general. We can start with Pa Andrew, and then we can move on to the other speakers.
Yeah. Thank you very much. Very good question. Obviously, as private sector operators of transportation, we have the responsibility of providing a sustainable mobility for the public. And so the drive, as mentioned, to the change towards EVs, I think is very important to be driven through the private sector, and especially from the operator side. Because I think a lot of the public will be watching and seeing how EVs are used and operated by us, and how the benefits will come by to the owners in the public, or also as the customers as a passenger. So it's most times that we will be the initiators, we will be the test beds, we will be the people who figure out what's wrong and what's good and what's right. And so I think it's very important that we start the initiatives and also, give assurance to the public that the change to EVs is not as scary as people might perceive. Thank you.
Thank you, Pa Andrew. From Pa Mr. Prabhaharan, do you have anything to add to that?
I think, Andrew, now when it comes to transport companies, right? Passenger transport, especially with electric cars, is one thing, but at the same time, the transport sector is much, much larger. If you think about logistics companies, bus operators, right, and they face challenges as well. And when it comes to, let's say, do they want to do it? Absolutely, right? Everybody we speak to has interest in adopting EVs. However, they have an existing fleet that they take care of that still, has life left in it. That's one concern. The other aspect of it is they need to go for financing, which adds a burden to them as well, right? And also, just because it's an EV, we can't expect customers to pay more to ride in an EV as well, right? Of course, there is some amount of premium when it comes to a sustainable mode of transportation, but that cannot scale to the broad public, which means we still need to find ways to make the economics work, right? So that's where all the pieces have to come together on not just the customers wanting to have a greener, sustainable lifestyle, right? It starts from there, and not only just the governments incentivizing manufacturers, the consumers, and everybody in between the value chain, because you cannot scale that as well. Then all of the private companies like the OEMs, the charging infrastructure players have to come together to bring this all to a level of convenience and affordability while being green at the same time. All right, and that's where we're here to talk about. So appreciate the question. It's a good question.
Yeah, it's keeping the balance of like managing the existing fleet, making sure that it's still affordable but sustainable as well. So that's the balance that the private sectors are facing, all these challenges, OEMs and so on. Thank you, Mr. Prabha. From Mr. Rakanda, maybe you have a view as well on this.
Sure. Yeah, I have some view especially regarding the government next steps to establish an EV ecosystem in other cities in Indonesia, and probably later Mr. Julian Smith, our consultant from PwC, will add some additional answer. So in terms of the next step to establish and its relation to the EV ecosystem, as we see from the Bali case on our project, Bali itself, they have like the government show the commitment by establish a policy called Bali Low Emission Zone Policy, I think, which aims at zero emission on 2023, if I'm not mistaken, like that. So this kind of policy, I think, should be also adopted by other city in terms of accelerate the EV ecosystem in each of location in Indonesia. Moreover, as what I know, the national policy itself also has already there a policy regarding this low emission development like that. So Julian would like to add something.
Yes, thank you, Prakanda Butuas. Thank you for bringing me in. Just briefly to answer the question with regard to the Bali project, because it's worth making clear that it's not the Bali government's intention to become a builder and operator of charging stations. The aim of the feasibility study we're doing will lead to a transaction where the government would procure a private sector operator. Now, the operators are already doing a great job of starting to implement charging stations, but we think that with the support of the government through a partnership, this can be accelerated. And in particular, it's very important in Bali that we don't just have charging stations in Denpasar. The government wants the network to be across the whole of Bali, which might include some locations where it's not yet economic for the private sector to invest. So the point is to make it a real partnership, to bring in investment from private sector, and for the government to help make it all happen faster in terms of removing range anxiety so that more people are willing to buy electric vehicles.
Yeah. Yep. Thank you for the addition, Mr. Julian. So I think it's also important that I think Mr. Christoph mentioned earlier that the government is needed to give guidance as well as assurance for businesses, like what Mr. Julian just mentioned, right? There are maybe certain areas whereby the private companies are not too comfortable with to invest, and then that requires the assurance from the government to support and be more willing and be more confident in investing in those areas. Yeah, that is helpful. Thank you. Ms. Batari, anything that you want to add before I move on to Mr. Christoph? Thank you.
Yeah, not much really. I think other panelists already share their excellent insight. I think just reiterating that I think continue to investing in developing our domestic capability in like developing EVs, as well as the supply chains coming from the battery until the recycle, as well as the readiness of the infrastructure in EV infrastructures. And looking into financing options, because I think one of the key barriers is the high upfront cost. So that's leasing mechanisms, battery charging as a service is also levers that we can continue to explore. At the same time, as Julian mentions, and you also mentioned, is the public and private partnership government, where the incentives needed to drive the market mechanism, or where it's not economically viable yet for private, and private where it's already showing scale, and there will be a return that can benefit the private sector.
Thanks, Ms. Batari. Last one from Mr. Christoph. Any thoughts on this, on the private sector's role in advancing EV?
Yes, I think they have a pivot role after when we have some regulations and directions of development. So only private sector invest in the electromobility, because from the private sector we have charging point operators, chargers, vehicles, no matter it's 2, 3 wheelers, 4 wheelers, etc. But I think we should think how we can use this opportunity for the private sector, for the business, and for creating high pay jobs. So that's my last impression about it.
Got it. Thank you. High paid jobs. Okay, got it. So thank you, Mr. Christoph. So just to recap, right? I think very important the role of private sector or private companies, but also not undermining the very important role of the public sector as well, the government, who will come up with legislations, all the regulations, and also the incentive programs that it will really help to advance the EV ecosystem. And once those infrastructure and foundations are being laid out, then the private sector will come in, start with investing together with the public and private partnership, fast charging stations, and also how do we start the awareness of EV through starting with public transportations, as what we have learned from the European example. So very important of partnerships amongst companies, amongst private sectors, amongst public sectors and the government and institution, because I think there's also best practices earlier mentioned about technology transfer and education through e-mobility faculty and so on, because the knowledge and the technology is very important, so that the adoption of EV will become further and furthermore. So I think thank you so much for everyone's time, our distinguished speakers, Mr. Andrew, Mr. Prabhaharan, Mr. Rakanda, Ms. Batari, and also Mr. Christoph. I think very great discussion and look forward for more. Thank you, ITS, for the opportunity. Handing this over to Inara to close the webinar. Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much, Tyas. That actually marks the end of our event today. Once again, we thank our speakers, our partners, and also ITS members, including PT Hakason, PT Aino Indonesia, PT Markel, and also Sergec Projects Limited. All right. Ladies and gentlemen, as participants, you will receive an e-certificate and also materials from today's event through your email. So please kindly wait for it. And for more updates on ITS Indonesia activities, please follow our Instagram at itsindonesia.id and also our LinkedIn ITS Indonesia. I'm Inara, and I'll see you again on another occasion of ITS Indonesia. Bye. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.